Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your attendance and thank you for your patience. We appreciate that. Before I call this meeting to order, I'll note for the record that I will serve as the acting chair for today's meeting. I will now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, business as Empire State Development, for Thursday, January 21st, 2016. As noted on the agenda posted to the internet, we welcome public comment on the items on the agenda. To ensure maximum opportunity for participation, speakers representing themselves will speak for up to 2 minutes each, and those representing groups may speak for up to 4 minutes, and one speaker per group. Speakers' comments may address committee items considered at today's meeting. At this time, I'll ask the directors if anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. So I'll ask you to please make a disclosure on the record now. Remind you to recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such item or items. Any conflicts? No. Lastly, please note that when we turn to the project section of the agenda, we continue the process of focusing on each region's strategic plan and to list the projects by region, and the vote will be taken at the end of the presentations for each region. As always, the directors have received the written materials in advance of this meeting, and they are free to ask questions at any time during the presentations. The first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes. December 17, 2015 directors meeting. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions with respect to the minutes?
Move.
All in favor? Any opposed? Great, we're making it so much time. Thank you. The motion carries. I'll ask Benson Martin, representative relating to ESD's audit and budget committee.
Good morning. The directors are being requested to approve the appointments of Howard Zemsky, President and CEO of Empire State Development and Commissioner of the New York State Department of Economic Development, and Shirin Imami, Acting Superintendent of the Department of Financial Services, to ESD's Audit Committee. As way of background, ESD's Audit Committee was created as a non-voting committee of directors charged with meeting periodically with the corporation's independent auditors and the Director of Internal Audit to discuss the corporation's audit procedures. We are making these appointment requests today because two members of the committee, Kenneth Adams and Acting Superintendent Anthony Albanese, recently resigned as directors of the board, which created vacancies on the committee. As indicated in the materials provided to the directors, Commissioner Zemsky and Acting Superintendent Imami possess the necessary skills to understand the duties and functions of the committee, and we recommend their appointments. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item? Are there any comments from the public with regard to this item? I'll entertain a motion to
recuse myself from this vote.
Move.
Is there a second?
Thanks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And we have this recusal here.
And a recusal. Thank you. We'll now move to the report section of the agenda. Actually, in the interest of time, I think divert some of my comments to the next meeting and just introduce Jeff Nordhaus, who's our Executive Vice President for Broadband and Innovation, who's really been working very diligently over the past many months on governor's signature initiatives, bringing broadband to all parts of the state by the end of 2018. On progress to date and the approach going forward, which was very innovative itself. So with that, I'll introduce Jeff Nordhaus. Hopefully we won't have further technical problems with the projector, but that probably just
No, it's not.
Thanks, Howard. Look at that. It's all working. Well, thank you, Howard, for the kind introduction. And morning, as Howard mentioned, my name is Jeff Nordhaus. I'm the VP Innovation and Broadband at ESD. It's my pleasure to speak to the directors today about one of the governor's initiatives, which is the statewide availability. We are launching a program. We have just launched the program, so the next agenda item, asking the directors to guidelines and itself. But before turning to that, Howard suggested that I would give and others update on the general broadband program, but the RFP and some context. So with that, broadband is really nowadays an essential service that we'll speak about, and as those of you who follow the state of the state noticed, it is a key component of the governor's Build to Lead agenda, which is rolled out this year. So we're pleased to update the board on our developments, including the launch this month of the $5 million new New York broadband program. The launch was made on January 8th and was made at an event at SUNY New Paltz, attended by Lieutenant Governor, PSC Chair Audrey Zibelman, members of our team, Broadband Program Office, and others. At the same broadband program, $5 million program, the approval of the by PSC merger between Time Warner Cable and Charter was also announced, and we'll talk about that later in the presentation. The combined impact of these two announcements, the Time Warner Cable merger and the new New York broadband, have an extremely dramatic impact on shaping the state's broadband landscape, and we'll talk more about that in this presentation. I do want to note we launched RFP this month. The formal portal does not open until March 1st, and therefore any comments from directors proceed today's meeting or in connection with approval can be fully incorporated into the RFP prior to formal launch. As we speak about proof, and as leaders of New York State, Governor Cuomo, Commissioner Zemsky, and others have recognized, broadband is no longer a luxury, but a necessity. A modern broadband network is key to economic growth. But let me speak briefly about some key statistics that really highlight that. Like electricity and phone service a century ago, broadband represents a foundation for economic growth, job creation, and across industries. Broadband is redefining how we provide education, healthcare, how we manage energy, how we ensure public safety, and how we store, access, and share information. Although there are many stats that these are some key metrics that drive home 98% of students report that they use the internet in school, with 31% of students saying they are required to use the internet to complete daily homework assignments outside of school. More than 85% of colleges receive applications online. So as you can see, nearly all students are using the internet in school to learn and succeed. Any New York State child without access at home is at a profound disadvantage. But broadband is equally important for adults. Nearly 80% of job seekers use online resources in their most recent job search. Many of those indicated the critical factor in obtaining. Millions of New Yorkers are telling using broadband to start businesses, need to receive medical care at home. So it's clear, broadband is not a luxury, it's a necessity. But as we can see in communities across the state, far too few people have access to broadband at the speeds necessary to power business and individual success. As you can see on this slide, the portion of yellow, which is Long Island, downstate, including New York and Westchester County, have speeds that meet the goal of 100 megabits. There's also portions of the upstate region, but far too few people have speeds necessary, and that's just not acceptable. For this reason, Governor Cuomo has made access to broadband a top priority of his administration. Since 2011, the governor's awarded $70 million of broadband projects to the state. And our group has undertaken to organize stakeholders to provide the underpinning to a new program. This novel, no other state has ever undertaken it. It's the boldest by any state, which is to provide universal broadband to all citizens of the state. The program that has that as its goal is the broadband program. Funding from the state is $500 million. It's launched, it is matched by an equal private sector match, and therefore we termed it a $1 billion public-private partnership initiative to ensure that all New Yorkers are digital of the digital era by the end of 2018. And the statewide RFP, as we mentioned, was launched on January 8th at the event I spoke about a few moments ago. Let me turn briefly to program RFP and some highlights of the program RFP. Each project, according to guidelines set forth, must offer internet speeds of at least 100 megabits, which is the governor's goal, provided that in areas where commercially reasonable bids are offered at 100, lesser speeds may be accepted, subject to a 25 megabit per second download. The technology must be approved to meet the governor's goal. For this reason, fiber optics and cable technologies have been preference, but bidders are able to submit for other technologies as well. Bidders must provide as matching funds. These are targeted at 50%, but a minimum of 20% must match any project to be considered. As per the appropriation, priority will be given to served areas, libraries, and educational opportunity centers. Bidders must provide, last point, we'll talk about some additional items there, which is bidders must provide suitable fiscal standing, management capabilities. Bid must cover a minimum territory, in this case 2,500 units. And finally, on pricing, given these projects will be funded largely with state dollars, we are not looking to regulate pricing, but some basic consumer protection must be afforded. As such, we will be incorporating a requirement that applicants offer a broadband tier no less than 25 megabytes down for no more than $60 a month. And we'll talk in a minute, but this is basically the new charter pricing. It's going to be out and has actually just rolled out, I think, yesterday. So it's in line with proxy if you look at Time Warner charter being. There are, of course, other auction ESD specific terms that are contained in the guidelines. In terms of program design, rather than extend over multiple rounds, we decided to launch the program to attack all remaining underserved areas in the state in one RFP. This bold step will allow us to deliver broadband needed as soon as possible and time to achieve the governor's goal of December 2018. Second, applications for funding will be evaluated in the reverse auction process, whereas a typical auction was the highest price to sell a good or an item. Put something on eBay, you sell it for the highest price that you would receive for that item. A reverse auction awards a broadband contract to the lowest bidder willing to provide an upgrade of a town or county lowest price. Doing so, we will award funding to those projects requiring the lowest state investment on a subsidy dollars per unit basis. And that's the metric that we employ in the RFP and the auction, reverse auction process to select winners. One other point is, in case there are differences where one region may have denser homes and another may have sparse communities, we will run each auction separately, each of 10 REDCs. Having separate auctions reflects different geographies and their cost structures of each area and ensures that every region receives a certain amount of funding subject to commercially reasonable bids being available in those regions. Although we do expect to make substantial progress toward meeting served and underserved in the current RFP, we intend to continue with additional phases after this round, which is through April 15th. We intend to continue additional phases as needed until the governor's goals. I'll turn briefly to the timeline. As you can see here, we have launched the program on March 8th. This month we will be hosting a conference for bidders. We're currently do that in Onondaga, but we're still finalizing the arrangements for that. The portal, as I mentioned, will open March 1st, and that's what I mentioned previously in terms of the director conference and approval today. And bids will be due on April 15th. That's when the RFP closes and the evaluation process begins. We intend to award contracts in the summer, or make awards and send out contracts in the summer, and then next steps and or further phases as needed. With that, I'd just like to very touch on the fact of the Time Warner Cable merger, and you'll see why in a moment. It's very significant to the broadband landscape. First, just for a bit of background, the TWC charter merger was the first major cable merger on new cable law. This law was strengthened by Governor Cuomo recently, I believe a couple years ago, and requires the transactions serve public interest of viewers in order to gain approval. The PSC was able to obtain substantial benefits for New Yorkers, which are valued in excess of $1 billion. The approval, as I mentioned, was made last week.
Is that federal or state law?
This is state law. It's just state law, and it's just the state of is given. This is still subject to federal approvals, which are expected to come later this year, first half of this year. To just highlight some of the conditions that are imposed by the PSC and agreed to by Time Warner Cable and will have a big impact on workers. There are three buckets. First is substantial speed upgrades. Now, downstate, and you see those people who have Time Warner Cable, you'll be familiar with their max offer, which is per second download. But upstate, their speed is 50 megabits. That's the most they offer upstate. As part of this agreement, Time Warner Cable Charter is to double these speeds to 100 megabits, thereby meeting the governor's goal by the end of 2018. By the next year, will further increase speeds to 300 megabits statewide, again by 2019. In addition, and this is very critical for our program, New Charter has agreed to connect 145,000 unserved and underserved customers in their footprint within the next several years. In addition, separately, they've made an agreement with Chatham Market because that Charter footprint. So they're going to 5,000 in the Time Warner footprint plus the Chatham Market, which will have a in a moment on the remaining unserved in the state. There are also other benefits which are going to be provided under the PSC order, including a first ever low income program, whereby you qualify for low income be able to have an unprecedented 30 megabits download for $14.99. So that's actually compelling and pretty much better than any other nationwide. There's also a standalone broadband tier. If you're an existing bundled customer, you can save costs under the new pricing schemes. There's protection for the workforce. There's a customer service enhancement provision and strong enforcement by the PSC. So I'd like to now just briefly show the map. And the map shows currently where we are. This is the slide we talked about a moment ago. This is available broadband, and layer on top of this the impact of the steps that we are hearing about today. The first step is to layer on the Time Warner Cable speed upgrades, showing the impact of those. That shows all areas of current customers who will receive less than the governor's goal, now receive 100 megabits under the new Time Warner Cable agreement. The little shade of gray is the remaining areas of Time Warner Cable's franchise where they have not out because it's not economic, and where they have agreed to upgrade some or all of those, and the impact of that, like this. The new New York broadband RFP, as I mentioned a moment ago, tackles the remaining unserved and unserved areas of the state. So those are the areas covered by our RFP, with the goal being 2019 to have total coverage and a state of broadband default. That, I'm happy to conclude and answer any questions you may have.
Very patriotic. Well done.
All right, excellent. Way to go, Jeff.
I'll probably turn the lights up.
Fabulous.
Jeff, is there a net neutrality program of all of this?
Oh, so good question. The net neutrality is actually an FCC regulation, so the FCC regulations apply to this as well. So anyone applying for a broad program is required to any federal rules, including the
And how many contracts do you expect to award this?
Another good question. So we don't really know is the answer. We know that with what we put out in terms of census blocks is close to 100,000 census blocks, but those are very small. We have a minimum that you saw 2,500. So you could take a guess of 20 to 40 as a range, but I'd just be guessing. We don't know how many. Initially we would receive. There might be someone who comes in to do a very, very large area, like a county, and it's all based on the auctions. As you know, it really is the lowest price will determine a very compelling bid, lowest price, and covers a very large territory. It could be 4 people would come in and do it, or 8 people, but it could be. I would say it certainly wouldn't. 40.
Any other questions? Jeff, do you have an item that you want to present with respect to the program guidelines?
Yeah, that'd be great. So just briefly with that as the context and background, we are also seeking the director's authorization for the new New York Broadband program. You're asking the directors to approve the request for proposal guidelines and questions that have been posted to the RFP. As we mentioned, and just to confirm, the program is $500 million or up to $500 million initiative authorized by 2015-2016 enacted New York State budget. The guidelines are intended to structure the first round of program awards, maybe at a later date to reflect different award criteria and subsequent rounds. The program will begin accepting applications on March 1st and will conclude at 4:30 p.m. on April 15, 2016. As I mentioned, just to conclude, subject to certain eligibility criteria as outlined in the RFP, applicants will be awarded on a reverse auction basis, selecting access to unserved or unserved units requiring the lowest amount of state funding on a dollars per unit served basis. Separate auctions for each DC unit will be held. With that, we request the directors to approve the guidelines and questions, such as any questions you may have.
Any questions from the directors with respect to these program guidelines? Any comments from the public with respect to this item? Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thanks, Jeff. Good job. We'll continue on with the administrative items section of the agenda, and I'll ask Steve Ballard to present the land bank program item for the director's consideration. Steve, are you with us?
Yeah, Howard. We're getting some massive echo on. I'll try to go slow. I don't think you guys are hearing it on that end, but I think the people on the phone are. Today, the board is being asked to approve 2 land bank applications, one from Oswego County and the other from Nassau County. The program really was established in 2011 and allows not-for-profit corporations to be created by taxing municipalities with the idea that they can acquire the real property that is primarily tax delinquent, vacant, and abandoned, with the goal of returning the properties to good use. There's one sentence in the statute that requires ESD's approval, because basically the statute was originally limited the amount of land banks that can be approved statewide to 10, that has since been increased to 20. In November of 2011, the board adopted guidelines which laid out the process, the applications, and the approval process, and to date, the board has approved 11 land banks that are up and running across the state. We have reviewed the applications of Nassau and Oswego County. They show a significant problem with vacant and abandoned and tax foreclosed properties that could be subject to land bank control. I think overall they've made a pretty compelling case for approval. So based on the foregoing, it's recommended that the applications by Nassau and Oswego counties be approved. And this would allow them then to go ahead and incorporate. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Any questions or comments from the directors on this item? Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, here's a question. Why would there necessarily need to be any limit to the amount of land banks that can be established? Isn't that a question of what the need would be in the state?
It's a statutory limit, and it's a great question.
Did I lose everybody?
No, we're with
I
you.
can still hear you, Steve. I'm not sure whether New York can hear you.
Yeah, this is Megan. I can still hear you too. But
The echo went away, but
I don't know if we lost New York City though.
Steve, we can
yeah,
hear you
sounds
speak.
like it.
I can hear you in Rochester. We lost New York? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Well, if it's any of consequence, we'll give you an approval here, Steve. So go ahead. Yeah.
Marty, is that you?
Of course, yeah. All in favor say aye. All right.
Do you want to take 2 minutes and do that? The only fix this is for everybody to hang up and dial back in.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Hang up.
Is it just a Buffalo problem or is it?
No, it's everybody. Everybody who's on the phone, it's Ed Hamilton. Can you please hang up and dial right back in, and we'll take a 1 minute where we won't do any business.
Okay.
Some can, some can't.
What was that?
Okay, I'll do a message to everybody.
Hang up and call back in.
Your request will be answered by the next available operator. To cancel this request, press *0.
Hi, can you, we actually have been dialed in twice, so we hear echoing. Can you disconnect the call?
Sure, I will, sir.
Thank you.
Muted.
Is everybody on again? Yes. Great.
Couple regions on.
Yes, sir. For meantime, IIB did apply. You want to disconnect that?
Are we reconnected with New York City?
Western New York is here.
New York is on. Can you hear us?
Steve, I'll connect you now.
Steve? Microphone's on the table, so it should be clean. Benson,
Hello.
Can you just talk into that microphone?
Testing.
Can anyone hear us?
Testing.
We still hear the echo.
Hey, it's Howard in New York. Can anyone hear us?
Yeah, we can, Howard, but we're getting an echo again.
Okay.
Okay, they're working on the echo for right now, but if you can hear us, I think we're going to proceed.
Okay.
Excuse me, this is the gas current operator.
We're talking about
Hello?
20 mile.
Whether it's Dalton, has to hang up.
Why? You know, I'm happy.
This is the gas current operator.